And then as soon as the door opened, then you slide right in with beautiful authenticity so that the relationship solidifies. Because clearly opening doors through generosity sounds transactional. I get it, it is. Because individuals have a lot going on. And if you don't open the door through, in a sense, what's in it for them, all the crazy monkey mind that may be going on won't be attended. But if all of a sudden you open the door with generosity, with a hope of, because I'm present, you will get something, and then you slide right back into saying, and who are you? And who am I? Right? That relationship builds bonding to move forward on. Does that all make sense? So powerful, so simple. And it's what I built my life on. The important thing to this, for me, and literally when I say I built my life on it, I have. There's a lot here I'm not going to get into. You might want to take a picture of it or just go online and see one of my talks that are just about this book. What I thought I would do today is something I've never done before. It's a little intimidating, and I don't know if I can do it in an hour, which is now probably 45 minutes. But I'm going to take you on a journey with me that is what I have wanted to give to the world through my books and through my teachings, but at the same time give you a little behind the curtain peek of what I was struggling with and what I had to learn in order to be able to take the next step to give you what I want to give you. And so that's that kind of, at the same time, talk a little bit about how my mission has meandered around, but actually as I've written this, it hasn't meandered as much as I thought. So the point of this book and my lesson to you and my awakening is you need a relationship action plan. Just like you need a financial plan or to-do list, you need a relationship action plan. For every goal you have in your life, I want you to list the names of the 3 people that will most help you achieve those. And I want you to be conscious of the fact that those are 3 individuals that you have to serve richly and deeply and recognize with abundance, not a balance sheet. It's not about giving and keeping score. It's about giving and knowing that the world will and the universe will promise take care of you. And of course, if somebody isn't abundant in their giving back to you, you're welcome to move on to another relationship. I'm not suggesting you be a doormat, but I am suggesting that you're not an individual that walks up to somebody and says, so let me tell you what I'm giving you and let me tell you what I expect. Which, believe it or not, is what most people think of when they think of relationships and networking. But there's a lot more that came to fruition when I was thinking about this book, but that's the lesson I wanted to sink right here. Now, what happened to me is this mission of wanting to be president of the United States, wanting to change American manufacturing, it took a pivot, interestingly enough. And it was born from, there was no question, what was born in this, in my gut, was scarcity and fear. We were poor. And I never wanted to feel that again. And fear, because and scarcity that I didn't think I would be able to. And I frankly felt broken. The abundance of going to a rich school and being a poor kid is so beautiful, but the negative side of that is I didn't feel like I deserved to be in the room. Now, I went to Yale. I ran for city council in New Haven. At the time, because I was Yaley, and my old man, who was a Democrat, said to me, if you're going to Yale, you're going to be a Republican. And I said, why, Pop? We've always been Democrats. He goes, because Republicans are rich. I'm like, all right. So I went to Yale, which is not a Republican school, and I was the chairman of the political union of the Republican Party. And because there's only 2 of us, they asked me to run for city council in New Haven, Connecticut. So I did. Got picked up in the New York Times, got national coverage, and people started calling me from back in Pennsylvania, wealthy individuals like Elsie Hillman and others, to say, come back when you're done with Yale. We want you to run. So I did. Left Yale, found a district that I thought I could win in Congress, and something happened that threw the curveball for me. I fell in love with a fraternity brother. That was not a Republican way. In fact, it wasn't a political way. It wasn't a way. Back in those days, Liberace was straight. There was no role model. Anything that I told you, I've never given this talk, not quite. Anything that I hoped for myself, I saw no path to be my authentic self. The only time in my life I've ever contemplated suicide was sitting in my bedroom with my scrapbook of all the elections that I had won and the things that I had done politically, and me working for George Bush Sr. when he was vice president, and pictures of me in the White House at the podium pretending to give a talk as president, and giving that up. But I saw a pivot. I could maybe materialize my vision, save American manufacturing, but maybe I could be a businessman. And maybe I could be authentic to myself, but just not tell anybody. Whereas I felt if I were to do that in politics, it would just be too difficult. So I went to Harvard Business School, but I had no money. Guess who funded my tuition to Harvard Business School? Mrs. Hillman and all of the people who were prepared to invest in my congressional election. The people that you robustly serve and then show up as an authentic, lovely human, they'll always be there for you, no matter where your mission in life goes. It wasn't the same mission, but it was a new mission, and the people were on the journey with me. So I went to Harvard Business School, got out, and decided to go to a company called Deloitte, exercising all of the belief systems that I had learned and taught in this book. Hadn't been written yet, but this is what I was fomenting. The CEO of Deloitte stood in front of an audience of interns, which is what I was at the time, and said, someday Deloitte will be one of the top consultancies in the world, at par with McKinsey and Accenture. At the time it was called Andersen Consulting. And I sat in the back of the room and I was like, we're the lowest of the big 8 right now. And I went up to him afterward and I said, sir, I'm committed to your mission. Remember this conversation, if you would. I'm going to come back to you in a few weeks. Well, I went and I did a research project. Remember, lead with generosity. I went and I called a professor of mine and I said, hey, let's do a project. What we're going to do is I'm going to study professional services marketing. And I'm going to interview the chief marketing officer of McKinsey, chief marketing officer of Accenture. I'm going to interview all of them, and I'm going to put together a playbook for how an organization can become the top in professional services. And the professor said, great, let's do that. And I did it. And I told everybody, candidly, I said I was inspired by working at Deloitte, and I'd love, and I will give you the research. I was like playing a little mini Gartner group, right? I was like, I'll give you the research if you give me the information. But of course, who did I send it to? The CEO of Deloitte. 2 weeks later, I got an invitation to come down to New York to sit with him. He's blown away. He said, nobody's ever stepped out of the way and did that. Your playbook is extraordinary. I was an intern, remember? He goes, I want you to come into the firm. Back in my head, I'm like, frankly, I think I should go to McKinsey. Because I actually had an interview with McKinsey, and he somehow knew that, which was creepy, and said, do you think anybody at McKinsey knows who you are? I'm your CEO, and I want you to come. And I looked at Pat, and I said, Pat, I'd love to, under 2 conditions. The first condition is that the rest of the time that I'm here, you'll give me 1 dinner once a year, just you and me. And the second thing I asked for was more money, and he said no. But he gave me the dinner, and he made me, within a few years, the youngest partner ever elected in the firm and chief marketing officer of the company before I was 30, worldwide for Deloitte. You find the individuals that are your path to opportunity and success, and you invest in them deeply and richly. and then you follow with authenticity. He became like a second father to me. I was closeted. I was in a beautiful relationship with a wonderful soul named Roel, who in the workplace became my girlfriend, Renee. And I felt like I had to leave Deloitte. And Pat, God bless him, early on, I was sitting with him at dinner one time. I said, Pat, what would you do if you found out that there was a partner about to become partner and you found out he was gay? Remember, this is in the mid-90s, something. He said, well, that's easy. Figure out a reason not to make him partner. That's not Deloitte today. I was like, all right, good, note to self. Well, I left Deloitte to go to Starwood Hotels with a young, ambitious, driven guy named Barry Sternlicht running the company, who had a much more liberal point of view. And in that exit, I went to Pat and I said, Pat, he really was like a father to me. I said, Pat, I've got something I need to share with you. He goes, you're gay. And I'm like, yeah. How long have you known? He goes, I've known for a while. By the way, he never remembered the comment that he made. He says, I've known for a while. I figured you'd tell me when you're ready. Well, it gave me courage to be more of my authentic self in that process. But in the process of moving all of these lessons forward, I never lost track of that core mission. At Deloitte, I started Deloitte Research, which was intended to develop methodologies which would start with the methodology of total quality management and emerge that to higher productivity in workplace beyond just manufacturing. I started something in Chicago where I was living at the time called the Lincoln Foundation for Business Excellence, because I had become a Baldrige judge around total quality management, and I thought I would use the platform of Deloitte to create an award to help organizations accelerate in adopting these new tools that the Japanese had adopted.